Australia just became the first Western country to block everyone under 16 from having a social media account. Everything from TikTok to Instagram to YouTube. Let's go to Emma Withrow from the Fact Check team. And you've been looking into this ban, obviously historic for many reasons. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, it's been in the works for a long time. The government finally passed a law called the Online Safety Amendment Social Media Minimum Age Bill in 2024, and then it just recently went into effect. It sets a mandatory minimum age of 16 for using all major social media platforms. Parents actually can't override it, and it doesn't punish the kids. The liability is really going to fall on the tech companies, so they're going to be the ones getting fined if all of this plays out.
And which apps are actually covered here? I know it's a long list.
Yeah, the big ones are definitely TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, X, Facebook, Reddit, Twitch, Threads, and Kick. Safe listed apps include YouTube Kids, WhatsApp, Google Classroom, Messenger Kids, and then also helpline tools. So the tech companies, they're going to be the ones in charge of verifying or estimating users' ages and using options. They're going to use options like AI estimation from photos or videos, or potentially even an ID check with a non-ID alternative, which is now actually required under law.
All right, so let's say that you're talking about a 14-year-old child who already has, say, a TikTok account. What happens?
So they're not going to be the ones fined or have anything necessarily happen. They're going to be removed from the platform, but the platform has to basically block, remove the account, not the user themselves. They're not going to be in charge of taking themselves off. All of the enforcement teeth, though, like I said before, are going to be aimed at the companies themselves. So if they don't comply and if they don't make sure that kids aren't on these apps anymore, they're going to be the ones getting fined by the government.
Yeah, and surely other countries are watching how this plays out.
Definitely.
We'll dig into that in a few moments. Emma, thank you.
Thanks.
Later on, Emma will be back to break down what child advocacy groups are saying about this and whether or not a similar measure will be put in place here in the U.S. Kids under 16 in Australia have been officially kicked off social media, but it will be up to the tech companies to enforce these new age restrictions. Let's go to Emma Withrow from the Fact Check team. To start off, Emma, just tell us what child advocacy groups, what their response has been.
Yeah, so UNICEF Australia, they say that the goal of all of this is good, you know, making kids safer online, but a blanket ban doesn't necessarily solve the core problems like harmful content, predatory behavior, and also algorithm design. So they argue the government should focus more so on making social media safer, not just kind of delaying the access, and emphasize that young people's voices were really barely included in crafting this policy. So they had some complaints when it comes to how this all came together.
Yeah, obviously there are other issues that still have to be addressed, but the concerns are clearly present here in the U.S. Speak to us about the possibility of any similar measures here. Yeah,
there's actually a group of bipartisan senators who have introduced a bill called the Kids Off Social Media Act. The bill bans kids under 13 from being on social media, which lines up with what most of these platforms say they already do, but this would make it law. Plus, if you're under 17, social media companies couldn't use their recommended algorithms on you, meaning that there wouldn't be like a For You page, there would be no infinite scrolling that's tailored to you, none of that. The FTC and the state attorneys general would also get the power to crack down on companies that don't follow the rules, so there would be some teeth when it comes to this law.
All right, we'll check back in with you on the status of that. Emma, thank you so much. And for more on this Fact Check team topic, including links to Emma's sources, scan the QR code or visit thenationaldesk.com.
From predators to depression, lower test scores, and anxiety, social media's impacts on teens and children have led one country to ban it for anyone under 16. Parents here in the U.S. applauding the move in Australia to shut down more than 1 million Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, and Reddit accounts for young teens. Joining us this morning to talk about some of the biggest tech headlines is cybersecurity expert and privacy attorney Lisa Garber. Good morning to you, Lisa. You know, as a mom of 2 girls, one of whom is a teenager, you know, I like what Australia is doing here. Clearly, research has shown how detrimental it is to the most vulnerable. Would we ever see something like that here, though? And how is it being enforced there?
Great question, Jan. And you're not the only mom to agree that this is a great idea. What we've seen in Australia is the only way that they've found to effectively stop all of the negative consequences that have been proven time and again from social media is to simply ban it for anyone under 16. They're using different age verification mechanisms. There's verifying a government ID, there's using a live video selfie. There are many other ways to do this across the world. But what we're seeing in the United States is we're coming at it more from a death by 1,000 cuts process, which is having states step in, since there is no federal ban being considered, and looking at the different negative impacts that social media has. So looking at the addictiveness, looking at the negative consequences like exposure to violent and sexual material. There are different ways to approach this. Right now, the only federal law on the books is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which only says if you're under 13, they can't collect data from you.
Well, here at home, it'd be interesting to see how that would be, enforced here. President Trump, though, does plan to do something else that could help American families as well, and that's signing an executive order blocking states from writing their own AI regulations, arguing that a patchwork of 50 different states having AI laws would cripple innovation. He says it would hand China the advantage in this critical tech race. What safeguards have to be put in place?
Right now, there are no safeguards in place, and states are the only entities that are stepping in and trying to make artificial intelligence safer. From the federal level, the government's initiative and directive has been move fast, break things, do whatever we can to be #1 in artificial intelligence, which has many positive aspects, but the negatives are hugely there as well. As we've seen the lawsuits come up from parents saying that their children have been exposed to violent sexualized content, they become addicted to artificial intelligence platforms and their chatbots. There have been children that have been influenced to commit suicide. We see almost a dozen of these lawsuits across the country. So states are stepping in to attempt to legislate this, whether it's through safety guardrails or other mechanisms, just to make sure that there's something in place, because right now there is nothing, and the big tech platforms at the forefront of this are the ones in control.
It certainly makes you think that what Australia is doing is getting way ahead of this, knowing that this AI race could, in fact, make it even more detrimental for young children, for young teens who are allowed and unfortunately exposed to this kind of thing. Finally, I want to ask you about a federal judge ordering OpenAI to turn over 20 million ChatGPT logs in its copyright battle with the New York Times. The company says this threatens user privacy. The court says that these are, safeguards. Could this case change how AI companies collect and store user data going forward?
Most likely not. And you know this as a news professional, as a journalist. These AI platforms are gobbling up every kind of information available on the internet, and they're arguing that it's just free use, it's fair use. And that's what these copyright cases are looking into. The New York Times and many others arguing you're not allowed to use this just because you can view it on the World Wide Web. And so OpenAI and other companies are arguing, well, we have to save these chats and the way that our large language models process data because this is a privacy concern. It's not. The concern is that they are using this data and it's not legal. So that's what we'll see play out in the courts in the next couple months and the next couple of years.
Cybersecurity expert and privacy attorney Lisa Garber, we appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.